What conditions do the House Freedom Caucus members need to see in order for you to be on board with the DACA deal?
Yeah, well, we've been on board with the budget deal, right? We've done 2 CRs with all Republican votes. And so the Speaker, Paul Ryan, promised that the DACA deal would be a standalone deal and that it would be decided in our conference by a majority of Republicans. So in terms of process, that's the deal. We have a very good bill coming out today by Chairman Goodlatte, Raul Labrador, McCall, and that focuses on the fundamental pieces, right? So DACA is 800,000 people, but then multiplied by chain migration, you multiply it by about 4, and you're talking about 3 or 4 million people legalized. And then the latest data from last year is we allowed in 1.8 million additional legal and illegal folks. And so that's 5 or 6 million people that are competing with American jobs. At the same time, we're going to do welfare reform, right? So we're trying to get able-bodied folks off of the welfare rolls and into productive employment because it's better for them. We want to end the poverty trap. But it's kind of backwards policy to be importing 5-10 million folks, displacing American workers. And when you displace American workers, where do they go? They go onto the welfare rolls instead of into the economy. And so we've got to turn that vicious cycle into a positive, virtuous cycle going upward. And so we just want basic fixes, right? If you end chain migration and you put in place E-Verify, which focuses on legal employment and legal hiring going forward only, it's prospective, those will go a long way to solving the problems. And I think the president is still pretty much on board that those big pieces have to be there because he ran on that issue, and the American people overwhelmingly want a solution, right, that's in the best interest of American workers.
So, Congressman, I understand that you would like these to be entirely separate, the refunding of the government from the DACA. As I understand it, your friends on the Democratic side don't share that view. So let's focus for a second on DACA itself. Put aside chain migration, put aside the lottery. Could you agree today for those 800,000 people you described to say, okay, you can work your way to a green card and ultimate citizen, or do you regard that as amnesty?
Well, it's bigger than that issue, right? If you do that, right, the fundamental problem with that is there's 8 billion people on the planet who are making 10 grand and would like to make 50 grand, right? So they're all children of God. They're all got their own gifts. It's not about the people. It's if you put up a green light and say, hey, DACA, once you get in, the American people, they're super generous, right? We allow 1 million legal in every year. And we want to do the right thing for kids, et cetera. But if you don't put policies in place, what will the rest of the world say? And it's already happening, right? We're having a surge at the border as we speak.
Okay, so
it's not a matter of just the one issue. You got to solve the whole problem.
So I want to be real clear. That means actually you don't want the 800,000 to stay either.
No, I didn't put it that way. I said there's a rational solution to be had, which puts all of it together into a coherent, rational story. Goodlatte's been working on these bills for decades. Paul Ryan, to his credit, decided to bring all 5 to the floor for a vote this year. And so it's not just about DACA. It's about a rational immigration policy for the country that puts American workers first. You got to first have a rational system. The unemployment rate appears to be low, but it's not. It's only low because 20 million people have left the workforce because they couldn't find any work. And so it doesn't seem you want to solve that problem with a massive inflow on immigration, right? You have to first skill folks up in K-12 and career and technical and continuing education. You got to solve the welfare problem. And then you have a holistic solution that's going to be good for the American worker.
You keep coming back to welfare reform, but there seems to be no appetite, at least in the Senate or the White House, to actually pursue this year. Does that mean the House Republicans will be still going ahead with entitlement reforms?
Yeah, actually, the tone's changing on that. Mitch McConnell was a little hesitant, but the word is he's warming up to it. President Trump, we got word today, is warming up to welfare reform. If you put it properly, it's able-bodied, right? It's not about taking a welfare. It's about education and training and getting people back in the workforce. How anyone can be opposed to helping people get back into the workforce, supporting their families, moving up the ladder, having a much better life as a result of that. I don't know how you can oppose that philosophically.
So finally, Congressman, looking at the Republican agenda more broadly, let's talk about infrastructure just for a minute. Are you willing to appropriate more money for infrastructure? I know you're very concerned about deficits. You overcame that when it came to for tax overhaul. Are you going to overcome it when it comes to infrastructure?
Well, I think we have to overcome it somehow, again, systematically, right? I mean, the grade of the bridges, I used to work at the state level in Virginia. You got bridges that are substandard. You got roads that always need repair and update, et cetera. So there's fundamental issues that we have to address. And, of course, you all know, I mean, the entitlement mandatory piece is 75% of the budget now. It used to be 25%. And so that's crowding out all the rest of the budget, military, infrastructure, education, et cetera, right? So if you don't manage that and solve that problem, we try to do that on a bipartisan basis, but when you try to do that, sometimes the Democrats do commercials of grandma on cliffs, et cetera. So that's not helpful to solving long-range problems when Medicare and Social Security are insolvent in 2034. And that's a kindergartner. In kindergarten right now, they will graduate from college in 2034. So this isn't some theoretical piece. It's a real deal. You got to fix that if you want to solve the other spending problems. Yeah.
Congressman, we don't have much time left, but I just want to get to this question. You defeated Majority Leader Eric Cantor in 2014, running on an anti-establishment campaign. How much has this movement been hurt by the rift between President Trump and Steve Bannon? Just quickly, if you could.
Yeah, well, it's been heard loud and clear. I mean, that's continued. I was 3 years ago, but then Bernie and all the way through Trump is the same thing, right? The people in Michigan and Pennsylvania and the Midwest haven't had a wage increase in 30 to 40 years. That's the cry. It's like, solve this problem for us, please, Congress. And we're starting to pay more attention, and the folks back home are going to hold us accountable if we don't listen to them and make their lives better economically. I think that's the number one issue by far still.